when I was young, I mean, I'm proud of my country. I'm happy to be American. And a few poker stars pros who hasn't jumped ship, from his country. But um, I still usually would root for the smaller countries.
Yeah.
Where I knew that I root for individual athletes more than countries.
Yeah.
And if you give me a heartwarming story about some athlete who had to walk 10 miles every day to get to training and came from a poor upbringing, that's the person I'm rooting for. And so even like a Nadia Comaneci or someone, that's why, tougher Romanians were, in a tougher economic situation. And so, I'd root for somebody like that over some American that had all the benefits of the best training.
Of course. Of course. Hold on for a second. I'm just going to give my son my phone here. Tim, ska du ha min telefon? Ska du säga hej till Barry?
Hello, Barry.
Hi.
Is it okay? Ta du min telefon så kommer jag in alldeles strax. Det är snart klart. Sorry about that. I think that's just nice when you have some live stuff happening.
How old's your son?
He's 8 now.
He's 8. He's already got cell phone use. Okay.
Nah, he needs likes to play games on my iPhone because Åsa is putting Emma to sleep. So he's on his own now. He's okay. It's like 8:45 here.
Oh, okay. I thought he was texting his girlfriends.
No, they have to wait.
Okay.
Anyway, we should. There's one issue. I mean, Black Friday is always an issue, in the world. What's the latest news, Barry?
Well, there's always, there was the Poker Stars is going to take over, and then that was being held up, and there are rumors of why that's being held up. It's a question whether I want to comment on rumors that may not be entirely true. And then there's also, saw there was a recent tweet apparently by Doyle saying that they've got a new plan that's going to work, and he was giving Howard letter of credit, and Daniel was mocking Howard getting credit for doing anything positive. I'm involved in that. I get a little more than the general public, but not a lot more, which is fine with me. I could get more answers, but if there's ever a leak, it would probably upset someone about what was going on. And by not knowing the details, because I don't see that it helps me to know them except to be a week ahead of the curve, if you know what I mean. From what other people know, I'm not that much interested in being a week ahead of the curve. I'd rather have people know that if something got leaked, I wasn't the one who leaked it.
Yeah.
One of the things that, again, I don't even know if I should comment on, but it was a rumor that one of the sticking points was that the top management of Poker Stars, the DOJ, probably because they want to come away with something, wanted our top guy to step down.
Okay.
That's such a huge mistake, especially because it would probably just be done for appearance sake.
Yeah.
I would really, Poker Stars leadership. I mean, people know Poker Stars has been good. We really have a good company and have had great leadership. And I would even make analogies to Microsoft and Bill Gates and Apple and Steve Jobs. We've seen that these guys have been visionaries and have really brought their companies to great heights. We've had a similar ascension with Poker Stars. And the reason is when you get someone at the top who is willing to listen to other opinions and then allow his if you get a really good guy at the top who can handle all that information coming in and end up selecting the right path, your company does really well. And that's what happened at Poker Stars. It also happened at Microsoft and at Apple. On the other hand, if you get a guy at the top who's a moron and wants it his way and doesn't do a good job of selecting the consensus from his best people, well, then you end up with trouble, and you end up saying, well, that's because there's too much power in one spot.
Yeah.
So in those kind of companies, you don't want the guy there.
No.
Frankly, and again, I don't like bashing Full Tilt on being a competitor, but I think they had a little bit of that at Full Tilt, where they're, the eventual top guy ended up being Ray Bitar, and he made some bad calls.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you would say, yeah, they should have had more of a board of directors or a panel, and they didn't. They let one guy kind of throw $1 billion down the drain with some of his bad calls.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that at PokerStars. We had a good guy at the top making good decisions, and so I would say for the poker industry, we've had a lot of good things where we've had these different poker tours that we have, the EPT, even though PokerStars didn't start it, they took over. They did launch these Latin American poker tour, Asia Pacific poker tour. They've been doing things all around the world, and a lot of good things have come out of PokerStars, a lot of innovations, and people will say, oh, well, they copied some other stuff. They copied what Full Tilt did on their, even though Full Tilt isn't the one who started it anyway, someone else, brought it to them.
Yeah.
But, there's nothing wrong in the software business with seeing what your competitors do and trying to either copy good things or even make them better. That's traditional advancement in science and everything else. Is that's what you do. You see what someone else did and you try to make it better.
Specifically if you have a customer base that really asks you for it, then you meet their expectations and help them out. And of course, we do it.
And that's what we have done at PokerStars is more than I think other companies. We listen to the customer base. It's very customer driven.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, and again, you may not know that, and the customers may not know that. For me to get a change, a lot of times it'll be put even to a poll on a website, whether it's the forums on People Two or somewhere else, or based on the complaints coming in. That really does drive changes at PokerStars. Yeah. When I first came on, one of the things that really upset me was heads up. They had the big blind on the button, which is different than it's done in poker, in live poker, and it's just not as good a game because it means the button has too big an advantage. And there's often no reason for the big blind to play. It really is a bad way to have. But Party Poker did it, and PokerStars copied it, unfortunately. And I had to lobby for a while to get it changed. And one of the things that helped me is we had polls that showed that 90% of the people agreed with me. I'm surprised it was even that low. But that, the point I'm trying to make is that change was not only me insisting on it and pushing it, but being backed up by our customers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, okay. So you're still around. You plan to stay around a while longer with PokerStars?
Well, I told you, I don't see me jumping ship, even if like PokerStars doesn't make it back in the U.S. and a new site comes up and they give me a better offer or something like that. Money would not be enough for me to jump ship from PokerStars. They'd have to let me go, and one of these days maybe they'll say I'm over the hill and useless to them, and they'll let me go. But so far they have. Not realize that I am over the hill, and
don't tell anyone.
Right. Don't tell anyone. Although I'm disappointed. I'm always going to be disappointed in some plays I make. I'm probably my harshest critic. I wish I would have played better. I had some unlucky things happen, which we all do. But as my girlfriend Alex doesn't like to hear, to get deep in some of these events, I had a lot of lucky things happen also. She gets upset. I got one outed deep in a tournament with 30 to go, so she says that was pretty unlucky. I had a wheel tied in the 10 game in Deuce to 7, which I'd never seen before in single draw. It happens in triple draw, but I had a wheel tied.
Yeah.
When I told her, well, it could have been worse. I could have had number 2, and I'd have still got my money in and lost. So I always try to tell her I'm lucky. So then I had so that was pretty unlucky, and a lot of people had never seen it before. Now in the big Deuce to 7, deep in that, in a pot that would have got me surely the money, I got a pat wheel. Okay. And I got that against Eric Seidel's pat wheel also.
Wow.
And so I got a second time I made a wheel in single draw and got that tied also.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that one? Yeah, I know you heard about the first one. I got my second time I made a wheel in single draw, I got it tied again.
Really?
And so again, my girlfriend said, now what are you going to say? That's ridiculous. Who's ever heard of that? You made a wheel twice, you got it tied. And I said, well, again, I could have had number 2. So she says, you're because I'm like the eternal optimist and she's the eternal pessimist.
Yeah.
And so she said, so I'm always trying to cheer her up and say, no, it's not so bad. She says, you're always saying you're lucky. You're always saying, and I'm looking at these things, looking at how lucky you were. And I said, well, of course I'm lucky. I have you. So I always feel I'm lucky. And she said, well, then I'll leave you and you can never say that again.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah, she's pretty brutal.
Yeah. No, the funniest thing with the first is the 7-pat hand you had after one draw. Was it after one draw, or was it you
The
were
first one
pat
was after one draw, and the second.
and
No,
the guy
we
only
both we
called
both.
you?
Well, it is only one draw, single draw. You
Yeah.
can't be after two draws.
No, no, no,
We both
no,
made
no. I meant was it from the cards you were dealt or after the draw? Did you hear me? The first one was with one draw, the second one with no draw, right?
Yeah, no, but I meant as opposed to two draws. Hold on, you're breaking. Yeah, let me start up.
Yeah, I'm sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, as opposed to two draws. Yeah, we in the first one we both drew one card and made a wheel.
Yeah.
And in the second time we were both pat.
But actually, was it the first time when you played in the 10-game tournament? I think, and the guy just called you, right?
He just called me. He didn't even raise all in. He hadn't played deuce to seven before, so he didn't realize he had the nuts.
Really?
And yeah, so it was pretty funny because I can't remember if you and I discussed it, but I tweeted about somebody said, "Don't you realize you have the number one hand?" to the guy.
Yeah.
He said, "I knew my hand was pretty good, but that guy's the best player in the world. I'm not going to raise him." So it was pretty funny.
That's funny.
The funny thing is, I tweeted it, and about 2 weeks later, I saw the guy again, and had mentioned to him that I tweeted about it because it was such an amazing hand.
Yeah.
And then about a week after that, at the very end of the World Series, he thanked me for tweeting about him. He liked being, even though I didn't call him out by name, he was like, he retweeted the hands. Was very proud to have been involved in this
big event.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, Barry, that's nice. Okay, there's some good stuff going on anyway, and I'm not sure I'm coming to Barcelona, but I hope I will, and we'll get a chance to maybe have dinner and do another live interview.
Oh, there was one other thing you wanted to ask me about the Commerce tweet.
Right. But there was in the Swedish biggest newspaper, Aftonbladet is called. They wrote about you came out and were very upset with some players at the Commerce. Was that it?
Yeah, I've been upset playing at the Commerce from the day I walked in the place. I was warned the first day that there are animals here, and the behavior at the Commerce is worse than anywhere I've been in the world. And I've gone to management and complained before, and I've got a good relationship with them, and they've told me that they'll do something about it. But there seems to always be a disconnect when it gets from senior management to middle management down to the floor people, because there's always this fear, probably especially as the economy's gotten worse in all card rooms, we don't want to lose players. We'd rather straighten them out than bar them.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, I think what happens, even in tournaments, I think what often happens is they don't recognize middle ground penalties well enough. And I've gotten my way at the World Series to get at some penalties now are one hand off or two hands. One of the things, again, it started for me, they do routinely now in Europe, is if someone leaves before it's their time to act in the middle of the hand, you see that someone look at their hand and leave it, can change the action when you realize there are fewer people behind you. Now in Europe, at the EPTs, it's automatic two-hand penalty.
Yeah.
When the person comes back. And it was supposed to be that way at the World Series, but they dropped the ball a little bit this year. But the whole point is having small penalties to start usually can stop egregious behavior later.
Yeah.
And so if somebody throws something at a dealer or swears at them or something like that, even though some people would say, hey, axe the guy, kick him out, the first time it happens, just let the guy know we don't tolerate this, you're off for a round or whatever. In a tournament, that's more egregious because the person will lose money. But people don't like to be picked up and embarrassed at the table, and we have to start doing this to players at the Commerce. I think they will more now because of this latest incident. What happened is this player threw the card toward the dealer and said, and again, it's now more than a week out, so I may not get exactly right, but said something like to the dealer, I'm going to chop your head off, you effing monkey.
Yeah.
And this dealer just sat there and took it because they're so used to the abuse. But what was worse, he had actually been railing at this dealer and had been throwing the cards. At this particular time, the floor man was standing right there. So I looked at the floor man. I've gotten in fights over this at the table where I've argued with players. So don't act like I just sat by in the past. I haven't. Probably almost every fight I've ever gotten in a poker room is me fighting with another player over the way they treated dealers.
Okay.
I mean, someone can say something to me and I'm not going to react. I already know I'm in the zoo.
Yeah.
But if they do it to someone who's defenseless, like a dealer who can't really come back at them because they may lose their job,
Yeah.
especially if it's a woman dealer,
Yeah.
who's again more defenseless, that gets me upset. I don't like people picking on defenseless people. So this was one where I immediately thought the floor man's going to grab the guy and say, "Hey, you're up. You can't act that way." And I was waiting to see if he's either going to tell him to take a round off, a half hour off until the girl's done, the day off, the week off. I was wondering what the penalty was going to be.
Yeah.
And the floor man, much to my surprise, stood there and didn't say a word. He just observed.
Did he?
So I
Yeah.
So I got up. And by the way, the floor man is a guy I've known for years. We used to be a player. He's only been a floorman for a couple years now, and he was a host for a while. And he's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I now got up and I said to him, "What are you doing? You can't just stand there." I mean, I bawled him out, and he's. I would even go. I mean, he's not like a close friend, but a guy who I've talked to on many occasions. I said, "What were you?" I said, "You can't let a player abuse the dealers like that. You have to do something about it." And I really railed on him. And then he said, "Well, I already had called a different player out, and he claimed that management, didn't react the way he would have wanted. That they, again, they're often he's afraid that if he yanked this player out, management would be disappointed in him." Okay, yeah. And I said, "I don't care. As a man, you cannot let."
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I also just want to say hi to you, Ray.
Hi, Elsa. How you doing?
Hey.
Hey, you're looking great as always.
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Good to see you again.
Bra se dig.
I'm sure you're in good spirits. Oh, actually, Alex has gotten up, but she won't walk in front of the camera.
All right.
But it's so beautiful where you guys are. Ricard invited us out, Alex, to the woods in Sweden. They're out somewhere in the woods.
Well, I can show you after the recording if you want.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. There's what is that? A lake in the background or what?
No, that's the ocean. That's the ocean between Sweden and Denmark.
The ocean between Sweden and Denmark. Does it have a name?
Sort of. Yeah, don't put me. It's like on the west coast of Sweden you have Kattegat. It's like the water going out from the Easter Sea out over Poland and Germany up between Denmark and Sweden, right? South of Norway, going out towards England. That's where this water is.
So it ultimately attaches to the Atlantic Ocean, is what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I can show her around after the recording.
Okay, sounds good. Anyway, going back to this situation. So I was trying to impress upon the floor man about how terribly I felt he handled the situation. Now, in all fairness to him, he did start to say, "Yeah, you're right. I should have done something. I didn't know how to handle it." And he apologized to me, and I said, "Well, don't apologize to me. You still, I still think you should do something and talk to the guy." Yeah. So now I get back to the table. I got up and took a hand off or a couple of hands off to talk to the floor man and tell him instead of me handling it, because I felt it was his job to handle it.
Yeah.
If people wonder why I didn't take it in my own hands, I thought if the floor man should do something more than I should. So now I sit back down, and it ended up the next dealer comes in, and this guy, let's call him the abuser, goes on a monstrous rush. He wins like 10 hands in a row, it seemed. And he gets even. He was losing during this other dude. Now he wins every hand. He gets even. And in the next half hour, he gets even and ahead. And he gets ready to rack up his chips and quit. And he throws a $20 toke to the floor man.
Oh, my God.
I looked at the floor man. I looked him dead in the eye. And I wanted to see how he handled this. I know what I'd have done. I'd have probably rifled it back at him. Maybe not. I mean, I guess you can't throw it back at him, but I would have thrown it with enough force to get my point across that, hey, don't try to buy me off and act like you're okay. Foreman just puts it in his pocket, walks away, and now I went crazy on him. I got up. I said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I said, "Do you realize the guy now leaves?" And I said, "This guy has left thinking I can abuse people as long as I pay for it."
Yeah.
Because the floormen at the Commerce will be there and stand behind me. And so I wrote this whole thing up on Twitter if people want to follow what I wrote. And I was really disgusted with him. And again, by the way, this floorman, this guy I know him personally, he's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
And I think part of it, he'd never act like that himself. So it's not like he's someone who abuses dealers. he just was like out of water on this and
Yeah.
didn't know, fish out of water, didn't know what to do. I said, how could you take money from someone? And he said, well, I would never take money to allow someone to abuse someone else. I said, I know, but you did.
Yeah.
And this guy has left thinking that he paid you off,
Yeah.
so he would never get called, taken by the collar on this
Yeah.
one. He paid you off. You're a paid,
Yeah.
accomplice to his crime.
Yeah. I think
said, don't you realize how horrible this is?
the correct decision would be for him to take the $20 and go to the dealer that were abused and give it to her.
Well, even that's what some players do. They abuse the dealer, and then at the end they tip them and say, well, it's okay now because I paid you.
Yeah.
If you were abused, do you want to be paid off?
No.
I've seen that happen on many occasions where someone will say, hey, sorry about that, and tip the dealer. And the truth is, the only dealers I've respected are the ones that said, I don't want your freaking money.
Yeah.
And put right back to the guy, you can't pay me to abuse me.
No.
Those are the dealers that I've respected who want to make a point. No, I'm not to be paid off to be abused.
Yeah.
That's not who I am.
Wow.
And
so what happened to this poor guy?
So I wrote it up on Twitter, and the next day he was called in, and they could figure out, I guess, by the timing of who it was. And I later talked to senior management. They told me they talked to the dealer, they talked to the floor man, and they suspended the guy for a few days. And I felt bad, even though he, I guess, deserved it. I would have rather had him handle it correctly on the spot. Once I told him that you screwed up, he should have gone in there and it would have saved me some money too, because this guy took a few pots on it. He should have, as soon as possible, as soon as I complained, even though it was 10 minutes later, said, hey, you got to have some time off. You can't abuse people like that. It should have. I don't care if it's 10 minutes late. The guy should have gotten.
Is it like a regular player and a guy who comes there all the time and a guy they are afraid of would go to another casino?
I think part of it is, and again, the foreman explained, he's a bit of a live one. He usually plays smaller than this. He had gotten stuck in the smaller game and jumped up to the bigger game, and this happens all the time. And I understand. This is what the foreman explained to me. He thought if he pulled the guy out, the rest of the players would be complaining to him. And the truth is, he's probably right.
Yeah.
They
if he
would
leaves,
have complained.
the game would close, and would be bad for the casino.
Yeah, the game, and so other players who aren't as sensitive to his abuse as I would have said, "What are you doing picking this guy up? He's a live one." Which is why I would have gone for the middle ground. Yeah. Of just picking him up for a round or something and telling him, "Don't do that again, or you're out of here." Yeah. And the guy's stuck, and then it wouldn't have happened again. Yeah. If he'd have lost another pot with the next dealer, he'd have used that person too. But it happened, he won every pot. Yeah. One of the funniest rulings I ever saw was we mentioned Howard Lederer. His wife was actually a very good floor person, Susie, and this is before she's married to Howard. There was a situation that came up where this guy had done something egregious, who was a bit of a live one, and he had like $80,000 on the table, which was like more money than anyone had ever seen him have. And she didn't know what to do because he had done something, and I can't remember what the infringement was, but where she wanted to bar him at least for the day, wanted to give him a day off. But the other players saying, "Don't, please, Susie, don't bar this guy, while he's got all this money in front of him, because he's a live one." She made a very well-judged ruling in my estimation. She told the guy, "I'm going to let you keep playing because the players don't want you to quit, but you're barred for tomorrow."
Okay, that's cool.
And what happened was this guy now went on to lose all the money in front of him, and then couldn't even come back tomorrow. So I thought that the punishment ended up fitting the crime. Everyone was happy at the end, and the guy still got punished. So it was pretty funny ruling.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, Barry, we should talk soon again. I hope instead of talking on. It's getting cold, and the kids needs to go to sleep and stuff.
Okay, well, I won't have you stand out in the cold, but we'll end the call and have show Alex if you can before you freeze your arse off. Is that Swedish? Oh, that's German, but I know there's some.
That works. Hi, Alex. I know you don't want to be on the recording. So
right.
We should quit the recording.
Yeah, quit the recording now. Show her how pretty it is.
Okay. We finish this recording then, Barry. and we'll talk soon again. If not before, in 2 weeks or something in Barcelona.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for the time, Barry.
Good luck.